Anyway, let's pray. Lord, as we launch again, we pray that your Spirit would be with us, deepen our hearts, deepen our minds, strengthen our hands and our feet, help us to see what we should do today, and help us to see that you are leading us the whole way. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Wow. Okay. Well, I always want to ask a question, and I did last time too. I want to know, why are you here? I mean, I know because it was scheduled, but I kind of want to know where we're at. Wow, I'm not sure if I can do that. This is going to be great. Here. Yeah, but I want to know, when you think about this title, what were you expecting? What do you want in this time? What were some hopes so we can be efficient instead of, I've already, yeah.
I want to know what teaching is. When it's not telling, then what it is. What it is.
Yeah, good question. All right.
Relation between telling and teaching.
Yeah. Okay. So you saw that as some of you actually have to do teaching, right? Whether it be Sabbath school or Bible studies or whatever it is. What else? What are some of the activities that you have to do with young people? Is that the same? Yeah. Yeah. And what are you doing with our young people?
I'm a pastor.
Oh, yes. So you do all of that.
I preach
And yes,
schools
so,
yes.
all right. Well, then you know it.
I thought the title was interesting actually, so that's
Yeah.
the title of the
I did 4 years of, training at my undergrad, and I had 2 years of preaching. That's telling. And then I went to the seminary and I had more telling. I go to my conferences and we have moments like this. More telling. And I go into a small group, and maybe you see this before. If I'm in a small group and I'm the only pastor in the small group, everybody looks to you. Why?
To telling.
Because we're good at it. We're trained to tell. When you end up telling all the time, I'm not really sure. I'm not sure if we're achieving what we're trying to do. In fact, you can probably go through the history and in your mind of the moments that people have heard things, but they don't do as a result of. Now that maybe it's ignorance, maybe it's that it's hard to do sometimes, maybe. It's not easy to forgive your neighbor sometimes, or your enemies even. I mean, those are the hard things to do. It's not like the things that Jesus said are complicated, are they? When you think about the hard sayings or the difficult things that Jesus said, it's not complicated. Do you have to, somebody hurts you, you pray for them? It's hard to, is that complex? it's not complicated. It's just hard to do, right? So in life, the things that I think that's one of the issues we're talking about as a discipline of teaching. I want to look at a couple of those things. I'll have to move through a couple things though. Like I like this picture. What's wrong with this picture?
It's possible to die.
Yeah. Some of my potlucks are like that too. So no, yeah. What's the question? What did you?
I just said it doesn't look safe.
It's not safe. No, it doesn't make sense. When I saw that though, I asked the question: Why are they wearing helmets? I mean, really, what's it gonna do? What's gonna help for them?
Well, if they fall to that side, the helmet might help.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. If they fall, they're not gonna stay there. I'm not really sure why I have that picture. No, I do. I really look at that and I say, we have a false sense of security, so to speak, of telling. In other words, if we say, we think it's going to work. In this picture, the people are, I mean, this is, if they fall, it doesn't matter what they're going to do. It's, it might give you a little peace, but it doesn't, it's not true that it's going to do that. Because I say it, it doesn't mean that they're going to get it. So we know that. All you have to do is look at the faces of young people today. You know that that's gonna be a part of that process. But look at that. Let's take a look at this this little moment, okay? As a teaching moment. It's probably one of my favorite ones, okay? So let's read it through and see. Somebody wants to read? I've been doing it all day. Who would like to read?
I can read.
There we go.
Just from the...
Yeah, just do the whole thing and we'll go to the next slide and you get to do the whole one if you like to.
Yippee!
Yahoo!
On one occasion, an expert in law stood up to test Jesus. Teacher, he asked, what must I do to inherit eternal life? What is written in the law, he replied. How do you read it? He answered, love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your strength, and with all your might, and love your neighbor as yourself. You have answered correctly, Jesus replied. Do this and you will live. But he wanted to justify himself, so he asked Jesus, and who is my neighbor?
Mm-hmm. And we know what happens next, right?
Mm-hmm.
What happens? He tells a story. Now the story, the beautiful part of a story, it's a teaching moment all by himself. You just don't have to do anything. You can actually let the story teach. It can haunt the mind. It can do all kinds of things. The story will stay, and it has this impulse inside to respond to a story. Why? Because we think in stories. We don't think in facts. We don't think in bullet points. We don't think, it doesn't matter what we say in our texts when we say L-U-L or whatever, in our short words and phrases, we still think in story no matter what. We take a word or a phrase and we think of an experience. Problem is that's where we get this, we have miscues of truth when we do that. Can you think of those moments where one word or one phrase or one couple an abbreviation or whatever does not capture the story, but the story tells the story. The story continues no matter what. It does have that effect. So, there's the end of this, and then it's coming, but let's go back a little bit. How did he start with the teaching? Remember? Did he initiate this? No. And we think this person was, being rash or being, trying to press him or to, it doesn't really have that real effect. He did try to justify himself, but that's what happens when you get uncomfortable. Have you ever been in a situation where you've been uncomfortable? In that moment? Yes. Okay. So it was initiated by the student, right? What would it be like if they could do more of that inquiry? I don't know what that looks like all the time. Okay, I don't have a whole bag of tricks for starting or getting people to just do inquiry. But there was something that was inside of the person. One reason or another, he had this question. It doesn't seem like that's the real question, though, because he asked and he got an answer. Remember what Jesus said? How do you read? I mean, you're a pro. You're an expert, right? You already know this answer. I know the answer. If you are somebody who knows the law, I know you know the Shema, right? The Shema, we memorized that by the time we were 5. So if you are who you are, you actually know the whole book of Deuteronomy, and you can recite it. So what are you really asking? He says, I know that. Is this a legalist? Is it a person? No. His answer was a great answer, don't you think? I mean, he takes a piece of Deuteronomy, and then another one. He takes another part of Leviticus. He's a New Testament person in that time, but he's going back and he just makes a choice out of all of the great things in the Shema, the Old Testament, or the law, that passage of the 5 books. He picks 2 phrases to capture it. He did a great job, don't you think? I mean, that's an A. And he said that. And he says, well done. You can do a couple different versions of the Old Testament, but that's a really good one. Wow, write that down somewhere. You know what he said? Do this. Now, in the Old Testament, they didn't just think something or believe something and didn't do it. If you didn't do it, then you probably didn't believe it. In the Western world, something changed. Our minds, we can actually separate the things that we think and the things that we do, and you can, in one side of your head, you can have ideas, thoughts, beliefs, convictions even, and you can do what? Do whatever. So when you see that, you see a very experiential approach with this. We see always pressing people. You remember the parable at the end of the Sermon on the Mount? I think it's Matthew 7, verses 24 to 27. What's the story? How's the song go with the wise man built his? Keep going. Tumbling. All right, we do the whole thing, but the reason why the person is wise, because of what?
Because he doing things.
Whoever hears my words and does them, you are wise. And the foolish one is because he didn't show up to church? No, it's because he hears, but he does not do. And so what you see is like a worldview of teaching in that Old Testament, that old ancient world coming into this rabbi, And so you see it do that. But he wanted to justify himself, so he says, let's make this easier for me in this lesson. And he says, who's my neighbor, all right? Let me tell you a story. You hear the story, you know the story, and then here's the end.
Which of these three do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of robbers?
Easy or hard to answer that?
Easy.
I mean, so a Levite just kicks him into the ditch, and the other one just basically ignores him? Is that how we roll? Is that how... I mean, even the Old Testament, the prophecies in Isaiah says that don't ever scorn people who come into the sanctuary. It's for them. I mean, they forgot that at times. You can read that one. That's a crazy passage for somebody. But they forgot about that. They like to talk about this, and they develop their muscle in their mind of this. Then he says, he asks the answer. Look at his answer, though.
It's very, very good answer.
What do you think? Why did he call him a Samaritan? Because we know he's a Samaritan. Why didn't he say that?
Because it doesn't fit in his mindset?
He can't choke it out, can he? Just can't seem to say the words. Maybe. Maybe he got something deeper, though. Maybe he got the real concept, the real truth that's transcending the time of the Samaritans and the Jews, or all of that. Maybe it's a little bit greater, in that he learned mercy. That applies to just about every relationship on earth. That's a pretty good lesson, isn't it? Good idea, good answer, good speech. Let's eat, right? No. It doesn't work that way because you need to have some sort of an application. Somehow you have to flesh that out. I keep using that word, that phrase about fleshing it out. And it comes back more and more when I start thinking about young people. Whatever it is we're trying to teach, it has to have some sort of flesh. You flesh this out into life in such a way that they can not only understand it, but you can actually do that. And we'll talk about it a little bit more, but there's like what we call the experiential model. This is an educational thing that it's like anything else. They're finding a good model of realities that have been there for a long time. But they talk about the experiences that you have, that you see, or it happens to you. Okay, you go into a worship service, and I went to Africa the first time, and I heard the sound of children. I close my eyes, and I'll never get that sound out of my ears. I just won't. I can hear it. I can feel it in my toes. Kids just singing. And it's a roar of praise, of joy. They have ulcers, bilharzia, HIV. They are dying with malaria. But the joy, how do they do that? I complain if I have a cold. So there are things that I can't get out. It's an experience when you actually have to go do something for someone else, and you've never done that before, and you see the gratitude for somebody who is appreciate your kindness. That is an experience. Sometimes we have moments like that. The way we process that information, something that happens to you, somebody dies, you think about this. What does this mean? What does it mean to me? That's called reflection, or you have to go through that process inside, and you internalize this, and you put all the pieces together. You think about if or when or whatever, and you do this process. And I'll see the whole thing here in a second. The next part of the process is abstract conceptualization. I know this is the part where we find new information. We'll show it up there all at one thing if you want to see that. But that's where we go to a book. If I were to start with the concept, I'll turn it right up side, and I start reading, and I say, okay, it says that John 3:16. How do I land to that? And wow, I have new information. It's a concept. I go to a book, or I go to YouTube, right? Or I go to those places to find new information, a textbook, or whatever it is, or even get wisdom from somebody I know, a new idea. Guess what? It's new. What do you do with that? How do you process that? Somehow. New information, you don't reflect. You have to do the active part again with some sort of an experiment to process that, and then you get so you can actually do this in a process, and it doesn't matter where you start, but if you really want to have effective learning, you have to go through the whole process. Think about how music does that for us. It's very physical. You think and process and answer, and the kids do all of the stuff. There's something about that. When they learn it that way, it's in there. Now you can forget some of those parts of it, but the same thing when we do in life, when we go through an experience. So sometimes we just stop, though, because we have other things to do. So I'm going to start thinking about the whole process of learning with young people. What are the things in life that I need to activate all of the attributes of the life that I do for young people, whether it's pastor or a youth pastor or a youth leader. And I had this model. It comes from the word of education. The Latin for that means to lead out, to raise up, to praise them out of the area. It's a nautical word, actually, that has the idea of a boat that pulls another small boat into the breakwaters, the hard places, together. Pull it out and then send it out to sea. It's a beautiful image for me. What I do was with young people, to bring them with us and then launch them out into their purpose in life. I found these little ships that I found that were common in my life. I also saw a process as well. If I needed to see a process of how do I move people through the life in the church, I could do it that way. But now, how can I activate or put that experiential model into all these three or these 7 benchmarks? So we don't have time to. I have a whole book that I did on that. It's here. If you go to right here, I'm going to put my website here. It's called Lead Out. Lead Out. Did you understand what I just did there? Lead Out Ministries. I have this as a PDF, and if you want to go to the contact at the bottom, down there, contact, send me an email and I'll send you a PDF of that book, okay? Because it's out of print and I'm going to redo it, but I'd like to get some feedback. And you can help with the next part of that. But when I was looking at that, I wanted to look at that process of that model. There are moments that I know that was really helpful to change my teaching. So think about the lessons that you learned in life right now. If you had like 3 lessons that you've learned in life from all your academic life to today, what are those truths? I've got a couple of them for me, but if you had one of those, how did you learn that truth? Did you get it from a book? I know. I used to teach about the brain a lot. And then 2.5 years ago, I had a stroke. My brain had damage from a stroke. And it hit the motor skills part. So I was in a hospital, and I could not speak, and I could not move. And it almost killed me. The doctor basically said to my wife, your husband is going to be a vegetable. Which was really ironic because I don't like vegetables at all. So I like bread, mostly donuts. But the stroke was a fluke. I was an athlete, and it has what they call an open heart, where at birth you're as a baby you start breathing into you're using your lungs. You're engaging those lungs. That means the blood and everything is no longer going through. They got air going in there now, and the lungs close to the heart, and it starts to function as air, and you're breathing. Before it's blood, and you're getting oxygen that way through your body with your mother. But there's like an opening there from the heart to the lung, and it's supposed to close at that time. And about 25% of us in this room, it doesn't close completely. It's more of a flap instead of a close. And if you have a cloth that you push, it goes in there. So anyway, it almost killed me. 2 years ago, I had to learn to walk and talk again. That process, all of the things that I used to say about the brain, I had to find my brain again. I had to engage it. I was seeing a word in my head, but my lips would never say the words. I couldn't move my lips to say a P, party, partner, and none of those things. I couldn't do that. How do you learn to do that? The whole experience of going through that, I had to see all the things that I was just telling people about. I had to learn to do it again. It was a different type of experience. I don't encourage you need to do that, but what happens in our lives, it doesn't matter. You can have people who have those types of experiences, but the impact is totally different. You look at let's say your youth group, let's just say that, or your church. Whatever you say is going to go into a brain or an experience that's different. Everyone. I did a test in with chemistry. Same amount of water and the same amount of dye that was dropped in, and I did this maybe a couple hundred times. Some people did it to 1,000. You get tired of seeing the same thing over. But you can actually do this over and over, and you cannot have an identity. You won't see the same thing. The experience. So if I say something and it goes in 100 different directions, the only way to have coherence in that is to move it out of there and into some sort of situation that they can feel and taste and touch and do. So what are the lessons that we need to teach young people right now? Let's put them on the board. You can come up here and do it if you want to, but what are some of the lessons that we should be learning? Like, if you had to do 5, if there were truths that we should actually do this on your little notebook or on your phone or something. 5 truths. Can't be a doctrine. Okay? Don't do the doctrine, because the doctrine is it's a no. I want a truth, something that you know we should be teaching. It could be a phrase, but I want to know 5 truths that we should share with them. Okay? I know for me, one of them, I want to teach. The one thing that they need to learn is they were made to work well, to produce. Young people in my country have a value that says, do as little as possible. Okay? In other words, there's an easy way to do this. Well, I know that. Do the hard one. Why would you do that? Why would you do it easier? I mean, efficiency is not a virtue. Okay? Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's not. So that's one of my truths. I want young people to work hard. And how are we ever going to do that? So I have one, but let's hear some of your truths that you would try to teach to young people. Are you ready?
Be patient.
What's that?
Be patient.
Patient. I'm giving you time for me to respond. Be patient. Yeah, sometimes I have to wait for my lips to catch up to my brain. I am very patient. If I get tight, my muscles, they won't function. Those muscles that you know that so easy for you, if you think and you speak, it's fine. I have to think about everything that I say. Sometimes I have to see it. Patient. Wait for me. My students right now, I'm talking and they'll say, believe me, it's going to be good, just wait. But they say, well, we're a little disappointed. Sorry. Yeah, patience. That's a good one. Why? What's so virtuous, something so amazing about patience? Saved our marriages. Help your children to grow well. Keep you in debt. Be patient. You don't have to do it right now. You have to buy it right now. You don't have to have it now. Just wait. Till you have the money. would sell a child or a car. Whatever. Yeah, good. Other truth. What's another one?
And have a purpose.
Purpose. What would happen if they lived their life? That virtue, that impulse, that hope, that concept was actually visceral. And what would they would actually making choices that my life matters? What would that look like? I'm gonna cry just thinking about a world that people had a purpose. When we're dumb, when we're being silly, it's when we're not thinking about our purpose. What's another one? Yeah.
If you have your why, you can accept almost every how.
What's the first phrase again?
If you have your why,
If you have a why. Yeah.
you can
That's
accept
kind of-
almost every
That's
how.
kind of
Yes,
that's a nice way to say that. Yeah, I like that.
Nietzsche said.
How do you put that why question? How do we put our purpose? How do we teach those lessons? I can say, you know what, you need to have patience. Amen. So how do we teach those things? If we were to put that through that model, an idea, it doesn't matter where you start, you can actually start. Why don't you think about this? Think about the times when you're so impatient. Why are you impatient? What are the things that you are so impatient about in life right now? Grocery store. I do not want to wait. If there's a line, I'll go find more food. So it's not very smart. Right? Find these little truths. Any other truths that I want to hear? I'm getting some really good stuff. Any other truths? Yeah.
For me, it's honesty.
Your yes is a yes and your no is a no. And talked to my son about that the other day. What does that mean? Your yes and your yes and your no. And we drove by and somebody who is begging. What does that mean for him? Young person. My yes means I have to do something. Right? It's another time to tell him about you gotta be discreet or whatever, but now is the time to let your yes be. And to connect that and say, what about you now, kiddo? Do you like, do you think that's fair to help somebody who's in need? Yeah. So we're on our way to go to a store to get your, to do something for yourself because you've been saving. Are you ready? Yeah. Do you want to do something? Oh, no, that's really good for you. Yeah.
Never give up.
Yeah, persistence. You guys are picking up all of the gifts of the Spirit, right? These are the things. So, can you find a way to practice those? Now, I can tell you what I would do, but we go back to this. It's up to the teacher and the students to cultivate this principle. How do you do it? You look at anything else you've ever experienced in life. Go back to that story. You learned it by doing it at some point. Driving. Try to learn driving a car by just watching. It's different. You have to feel the car to understand what to do. You can do it all you want. Right. Okay, anyway. I know. So, when we're talking about that, I found some areas that I feel that are very common in my life. Number one, just the experiential learning in just about everything that I can do. whether it's discipling kids, training them for service or whatever it is, when I have moments, how can I put that into some sort of an experiment that we can do? How do we do that? We were talking about somebody. I'll tell you a story that goes to the service one. This one kid said, "What do we do when we're surprised with life?" So, have you been surprised by life? You ever had a call, somebody who's dying or dead? I've had 20 kids under the age of 20 in the last 20 years at one church. I've had to do the funeral. When I hear the call, I'm surprised. It does something to us. So these kids are talking about, what do we do? And we're just surprised. Life gets so chaotic. And I said, so let's talk about all the surprises this week, or this last month, and this year. Let's put them on the board. They put everything. Surprised by pregnancy. Everything. There was everything. I mean, I saw too much. When I said, how do we deal with this? And we started working on it. One of the kids said, what would happen if we were to surprise people with kindness? What do you mean? I had done something like this before, but they put words for this. Let's go surprise people with kindness. I mean, we're always going to have surprises. What would happen if we were to increase the surprises of my community? So they did. So they started saving their change, their money, like the little pieces of money. They called it Change the Day. It was great. They got families, businesses, and people to save change too. They put together on one day a bucket, took it to the bank, $200. That's a lot of money, a lot of change, a lot of little things. Like the lessons, they just continue and extend into my mind of all the things that happen with this thing. But yeah, they went into a restaurant and paid for everyone in that restaurant. Like, it was more than 200, they had more money for that, but they just said, we want to pay for everyone in the restaurant. The waitress and the manager was sitting there saying, do you know these people? Nope. Says, and you want to pay for their meals? Waitress says, yeah, what about the tips? That too. Okay. They didn't care. That was, she didn't want to get stiffed for the other people. Anyway, they said, why would you do this? They took the same thing and said, have you ever been surprised? Yeah. My wife or my girlfriend is pregnant. It was pretty funny. The pregnancy thing came again. It was so funny. He says, well, we just want to increase the surprises of people because life can be very hard. They just made a dent into their hearts of the people who are the employees. They do it every 2 or 3 weeks, go to that one restaurant. I'm going to see some of those people showing up to our church one day. I know it. I know it. Because our kids go in there and just quietly, silently, just change somebody's day. Now, when you get a gift like that, what do? You say, haha, if I'm secular, I said, lucky. Well, if you're on the spectrum of, if there's a God, he might be looking out for me too. I'm just waiting for you, God, to show up do you think the Holy Spirit can use those things to do
Yes.
so? They can. And they'll do more. We'll never see that, but our job is to teach our young people it's not about the result, it's to actually do the virtue, the thing that we know God does, his character, the things he is and does. We are mirroring those things. What we talked about these lessons that you shared, those are the virtues, the characteristics of our God, isn't it? So we're just teaching that. We're just learning it, just practicing it. So when they did that in that that little lesson, I thought it was pretty impressive. I thought I had a picture of them doing that, but I don't. Anyway, I think, yeah, when I look at the service part, yeah, I do. That's just us doing that. Sometimes, one time they actually said we had about $200, $5 bill, put it in a card, and put a gospel message. And I said, I want you to pray and think about that for an hour. Just do it. Do it really well, okay? Say something to the hearts of people that you'll never know again, right? And you're going on a bus, people who, they don't have a bus, they don't have a car, they don't have the money. If they're on a bus, it's because they had a DUI, in other words, you were driving with drug, so you don't have your license, or you're on a bus. Or in our town, it's just because you have the resources. Every day you get in the thing and you trudge yourself home, or up to your work, or your second or third work. Our kids go into the bus, sit down with their card, and they wait. And I'll follow them. It takes about an hour, and I want you to just think and pray. You find somebody on that bus to give. You be prayerful. Don't land on the same stop. Do it little by little, and they do. Do 4 or 5 of them, and they go, and they just give the card, and they just say, have a good day. And then they have that message. If you got that gift on the worst day, or a day like that, maybe it'll open their heart for the next thing, and the next thing that is. See, if we can get our young people to do that, they're going to learn about the purpose, they're going to do about the patience, wait for the results. It's all the things. So you can teach more than just one truth or concept when you can activate these truths. So yeah, is that crazy?
It's different.
Yeah. I don't know. It could be totally lame. I know over time we get shaped and molded by life. And our experiences will do that. So it doesn't matter what we say on this side. Life teaches us over here. So you can have that kind of experience like this turtle. It's supposed to be this, but he can't go that way. He has something else. It's a little moment when it was a small turtle that it had a little ring, right? And it was. And it just lodged on the outside. Is that, yeah. You get the point. Remember, does it say in Romans 12, verses 1 and 2? Don't don't conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by renewing of your mind. Transforming is not a thought thing. It is like Gary say, it was like a metamorphosis in your brain. So I'm hoping to when I see these little images and things like that, I want to see our young people to try to teach better. In other words, when we're teaching, are we asking them questions that they can answer with stories? If you're going to be in a room like that, think about the stories. If you have something that's worthwhile, it should be something that they should do. When they do that, you can actually tell stories. So, do I do that with the whole class? No, I find one. I find one person who'll do it, that I know will try it, to practice it. What would it look like if you were to do that? Well, that means I'd have to actually do a letter to this person. Would you do that? What? Yeah, can you do that? Why don't you do that? I'm just curious. What would happen if you were to take that letter of forgiveness and put it into the mail and send it? To free someone who's hurt you or said something to you or something like that. What would happen? Don't you want to know? Oh, yeah, but I have one person who did that. Opened the box for the postman. She stood there. I did it before too, I know. She dropped it. Learning happened. Like the freedom to fall. To be able to do that thing. You saw the kids who, I don't know if I have it there, I do. I used to have this. Take a look. No. Have you ever seen young people who do the trust fall? They have to fall.
It's about education.
Yeah. There's a moment that they have to commit. You have to commit. You can't go halfway. You go and your weight will go. You can do it poorly. It can be bad, but you're going to fall no matter what. You can do it well or same thing. You'll learn about trust by doing that. It's the same thing about committing to relationships. Same thing. So finding those moments to teach that way. We'll find a story. It'll fit. It'll work. You'll see the whole model. How'd that work? What do you think about that? What do you think about this now? What do you think? Yeah, I should do this. Then do it. Do it again. What would happen if we were to do that? Just do it one person quietly and see if it can extend that. And then you will make the new method. You'll see the way to do that in every different situation. You can look for strategies, but they won't work. You'll take all of your work to try to to apply some sort of strategy when you are the resource. There's no book for that. So if you're working with young people in a church or young people, you are the resource. It's not a book. So congratulations. Yeah. Well, let's pray. God, as we think about the master teacher who said, go door to door and don't worry about things that you'll say. Then there'll be moments that it's time to speak and it's time to be quiet. And there'll be times that all these things that we learn, you did it so well. Help us to teach that way, to train people in such a way that they will feel and experience and know what you're really talking about. Not just a theoretical thought, but they have a story at the end that it happened to me. I pray that they'll have a whole world around this globe that has stories that you have done these things inside of them, and that will make a difference. In Jesus' name, amen. Sorry about being tardy. I really didn't. I've never done that before.
It's okay.
Yeah, that's weird. I'm gonna. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, if you want to know, there's some strategies and tips and things like that. If you want, go to Lead Out Ministries. And already people have been asking, and I will do that, but I'll do a little thing. Just don't sell it or, print it, but give me a response, give me some ideas, because I'm reprinting this. I'm going to reprint this in about 6 months, so I'd love to see in your ideas. But that book is a whole thing from youth ministry, but there's a couple places inside of that that says when we're doing teaching or worship or whatever it is in discipleship, especially in the teaching part, just look at some of the things that we do, the things that we say, how we pray, how we do things differently. You might find something and say, oh, that's really thoughtful. Let's do that. Or what do you think about that? That's a different world. Because I did that in like 15 years ago, and I just, sometimes the world changes, but some of the things that Jesus taught, they're pretty timeless. So. Well,
Thank you.
you're very welcome.